I always he looks like who's that Bible teacher? Derek something from Oxford. Uh, yeah. So can we just go back to Matt? So Matt is a Bible teacher. Matt is a personal friend of mine. He's a personal friend of all of us in the ministry. He's a person. He's a personal friend of the ministry. And his wife is on, Agatha as well. She's with him tonight, and they live in Poland. They did live in England, and then they absconded to Poland. And Matt is a Bible teacher and I'm going to say technology specialist. That's a good word, Matt. But I try to. Matt's my go-to person if I've got queries with technology. But also he's got I don't think it's just a brain. I think it is a heart that God has given him. God's given him a gift in technology, in understanding technology, how it works and where it's going. And I trust Matt's judgment on a lot of things. So I say, Matt, what about this? And he says, no, don't touch it with the barge pole. For me, if Matt says don't touch it, I ain't going to touch it. So that's how much I trust him, and love him and honor him. And so we thank you, Matt, for being with us tonight. And Lord, we just know that you're going to give us some really good insights and things to consider. And do I have to do the next slide as well? Is that to be said now? Do I say that now, Selena?
No, no, it's fine.
I just say this. Okay.
Yeah.
So right. Okay. So we're going to go over to you, Matt.
Okay, thanks. Well, before I start with AI, I've been looking into it for the past few years. We work with it quite extensively with work. We're doing several AI projects as well as using it in our work, uh, and planning to use other parts of it. So we'll go into what it actually is later on and some of the good things it's being used for as well as the not so good. So something AI is something that we seem to hear everywhere now, but we typically really don't understand what it actually is. Most of you will have heard it. Some of you will have used it. Your phone and search engine has it now, whether you like it or not. If you use
Mm,
Windows, it would have already installed itself without you even asking. If you're using Google Chrome, a few weeks ago, it would download huge multi-gigabyte files to run AI on your computer, and it didn't even ask you. So yeah, it's here to stay, I think, and it's changing lots of things. And as Christians, I think we need to understand it, and not as an engineer, but as a believer, because what's being built now in our generation is going to change everything, and we cannot afford to be asleep. In 1 Chronicles 12:32, we read about the sons of Issachar, men who understood the times to know what Israel ought to do. And that is what we need to do. Not be afraid, not naive, but to understand, knowing what we ought to do. Uh, I have the ability to share.
yeah, you should have.
Okay. So when I talk to Christians about AI, I usually hear one of two responses. The first response is panic. Everything is the mark of the beast. Every computer chip is demonic, and we must all run away from it. And I understand that instinct, but I don't think the Bible calls us to retreat into a cave. And the second response is the opposite. Just shrug and just use whatever they give us. Sign up for everything, accept everything without reading it. Hand over all your data, hand over your kids to whatever they're being given, and just tell everybody it's all fine. Technology's always changed. Just go with the flow. And I don't think that's biblical at all. The right response, I think, is the one Jesus gave us in Matthew 10:16. Be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Understand the situation, see what's happening, and then act with wisdom. So we're going to take a look at what AI actually is, who is building it, and what it's being used for, and where I believe it's going, and what we should do about it as believers. So AI is short for artificial intelligence, but the word intelligence is misleading. When we say a person is intelligent, we mean that they understand things. They reason, they know, they think. AI does not understand anything, it calculates. When you read a story to a child, the child starts to understand it. They follow the characters, they feel sad when the dog dies, they laugh at the funny parts. Something real is happening inside of them. There is a person, a soul in there, made in the image of God. When you ask a large language model, an AI, a question, nothing like this is happening. The AI has been shown vast amounts of text from the internet and documents, billions and billions of words, and it has learned what words tend to come after other words. When you ask it something, it's just predicting word by word what's the most likely word is, and that's all it's doing. It's just massive scale pattern matching and then pattern prediction based on what it's already seen before. So when you hear an AI say, I think or feel, it is not thinking or feeling. It is read millions of humans say those words and it is copying the pattern. It is very clever and it's mirrored and polished to look like a window. In Genesis 2:7, then the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. God breathed into man, and that's what makes us alive. That's what gives us a soul. No machine has been breathed into by God, and no machine bears his image. The most powerful on AI right now is just a pile of numbers, billions of them multiplied against each other, and there's no person in there. And so if you keep that in mind, when I say AI, it's a mirror, it's not a mind. The next word you may not have heard of is AGI, and that's what they're trying to do next. This is artificial general intelligence. This is where everything's going to change. So the systems we have today are narrow. So we have a medical AI that's brilliant at spotting tumors, but it can't write a poem. You can a chatbot, you can write you an email, but it can't drive a car. They each do one thing. AGI is the next step, which will be a single system that can do everything a human can do, reason, plan, learn new skills, and the learning is the key part. At the minute, they can't learn and adjust themselves. They have to be pre-trained, and once it's trained, that's set until it's retrained and a whole new model is replaced. They'll be able to do silence, hold a conversation, work a job, and the companies building this say this is what they're aiming for, and they are pouring billions and billions into it. Okay, you can't see the slides? Oh, there we go.
Have you shared something, Matt? Okay, yeah.
Okay, that's it. So yeah, AGI is the next step, and that they're not just building this as a tool. The men that are leading the biggest AI companies in the world, they're not just trying to make a better calculator. They are openly trying to build a mind, and some speak about creating a successor species. One of them described as building a magic intelligence in the sky, and these are their
Mm,
words. If you have ears to hear, you should recognize the spirit of this. Uh, Genesis 3:5, Satan says, and you shall be a god.
mm,
What the serpent said in the garden, this has always been the temptation to build and rise up, to be like God without God. In Genesis 11:4, it says, come, let us build a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens. The men of Babel said the same thing, and God came down and confused their language and scattered them. What is happening at the top of the AI industry is not just a business. For many of them, it's a religion. They're trying to build a god they can control. They are putting more money into this and more talent than any other project in human history. That does not mean that every Christian that uses ChatGTP is in trouble. A tool is just a tool. But you need to understand the spirit of the men who are building these systems. It is not Christian, it's not neutral. In many cases, it's openly opposed to Christianity. There's many of these AI tools. If you ask it about, if you ask it to write a joke about Jesus, it has no problem. If you ask it to write a joke about Muhammad, it refuses to do it. And this is not the AI that's learnt this. This is the guide rails that have been deliberately put in by the people who write them. That their spirit is not of one of a Christian spirit at all. Not saying they're all like that, but many of them. There's been many test cases where this has happened. So how does it actually work? At the heart of every modern AI is something called a neural network. and the name is just marketing. They're not really brains. They're mathematical structures called matrices, and very loosely inspired by the way nerve cells connect. They're, imagine a huge grid of dials, billions of them, and each one set to a number somewhere between -1 and +1. When the system is being made, it's fed in a massive amount of text from books, internet, websites, newspapers, news, forums, code, everything they can scrape. For every piece of text, it tries to predict the next word, and then they adjust those billions of dials very slightly so it gets a bit less wrong. They do this trillions of times, and it can take months to train a model, and it uses as much electricity as a small city. And once they get the best prediction values, the dials are frozen, and this is a trained model. When you type in questions into the chatbot, those words get turned into numbers. Those numbers flow through the dials and come out as the most likely next word. The chatbot says that word and then it does the whole calculation again to get the next one and the next until your answer's finished. There is no understanding, there is no thought and no souls. It's just mathematics. So when the computer tells you now it's thinking or feeling, you can tell them straight. It isn't. Numbers don't think.
Mm.
So a small number of these companies are doing most of the work. In America, you have OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Meta, Microsoft, xAI, and Amazon. And in China, you have DeepSeek, Alibaba, Baidu, Tencent, and the Chinese government behind them. And then the US military through DARPA are also heavily involved. And that's basically it. There's a handful of trillion-dollar companies and a handful of governments, and they're spending vast amount of money, and the money's going up. Most of these people are not Christians. Many of them went to elite universities where the Christian faith is treated as a joke. A significant of them hold views that can only be described as anti-Christian, and they're open about it. And they believe man is something to be improved, transcended, replaced. And they're not building this technology with our worldview in mind. Why would they? And many of them openly think that they're going to be able to build an interface to man where you'll be able to upload part of your soul and live forever inside a machine. That's many of them are motivated by this goal. They think that's technically possible. And in Colossians 2:8 it says, "Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the traditions of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ." The philosophy behind most of these people building this technology is not after Christ. And yeah, when we come look at this, where are the Christians? There are some involved in this landscape, uh, and there are some that are raising up as the modern day Christian printers of the Reformation who put the Bible in every hand. They're using some of this technology to do incredible things, really deep translation tools, allowing the average person to access the original Hebrew and make it accessible. But yeah, but many of the people inside, we need to really pray for them who are inside these companies, and we need to ask God to raise up more of them. So there are some good uses of the technology. Like James says in 1:17, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and cometh down from the Father of lights. So medical AI is doing incredible things. It's finding cancer scans and earlier than trained human radiologists can find. In fact, it's going through the archive and spotting things that the radiologist missed. You're able to upload symptoms now, and it'll give you a reasonably accurate diagnosis. You can take pictures of your moles or things if you're worried about, and it will tell you what's going on with that. It's getting that kind of side of it is getting very good. Accessibility tools helping the blind navigate, the deaf communicate, and the dyslexic read. And I know many people have heard about the Neuralink, Elon Musk's brain chip, and yeah, it sounds quite horrific. But when you see the people who've had it, there was one guy that was a total paraplegic in a diving accident. He was paralyzed from the neck down, couldn't do anything, had no real purpose in life, and this chip allows him to interface with a computer, and he can move the mouse, click on things, and it's completely changed his world. He has a level of freedom now that he didn't have before, and he's able to actually his quality of life and his words has vastly improved just by being able to move a mouse around the screen and click it. Bible translations have been massively accelerated. Translators using these tools are pushing scripture into languages that have never had a Bible before. Engineering uses AI to design safer cars, lighter aircraft, stronger bridges. Farmers are using it to identify crop disease and use less pesticide. Pastors have been using it to study the original Hebrew and the Greek in ways that would have taken years of seminary training. And these things are real. The tool itself is not an issue. A hammer can build a house or it can kill a man. A press can print Bibles or it can print filth. So when we use AI with Thanksgiving, we can use it with discernment.
Mm.
The principle has not changed. If we use the tool, but we do not be mastered by the tool. So some of the concerning uses of it. Uh, for all of human history, we could trust our ears and eyes about the people, and we can know personally. Uh, from now on, you cannot believe video, you cannot believe audio, you cannot believe what comes through a screen unless you know the source you can trust. Some of the fake videos now and the generators are getting so good, it's almost impossible to tell. Their ability to clone voices and clone people, you can make people say anything. So yeah, the standard of video now that used to be that photos were the standard in court. A photo couldn't lie, and then Photoshop came out and you could manipulate them. But now video was accepted as the gospel truth. Now videos can't be trusted either unless you can verify the authenticity, which is getting more and more difficult to do. Mass surveillance. In China right now, AI is being used to identify people from cameras on the street, track their movements, monitor what they say, assign them a social credit score that determines if they can travel or have a bank account. And this is real, this is happening today, and it's being trialed quietly in cities across the West. In some Chinese countries, if you're found to have had a Bible, if you're having a Bible study in your house, your credit score goes down. If you report somebody that's having a Bible study, your credit score will go. You'll get points for dobbing them in, as it were. And HMRC have just taken on a huge AI project now. They're going to be looking for all kinds of tax analysis, calculations, misreported, looking for signs that you may be committing tax fraud. Uh, there's all these kind of scenarios that are going to be deployed now. Algorithmic manipulation. So social media platforms use AI to decide what person sees on their phone, not to inform them, just to keep their eyes on the screen so advertising sells. The watchman of our gate is our heart is being replaced by a slot machine, and this has done terrible damage to the young people in particular. Fake relationships. There's now AI chatbots designed to be your boyfriend or girlfriend, or your therapist or spiritual guide, and tens of millions of people are using them. And some of the worst stuff is used to produce in industrial scale illicit imagery, especially with about children. And there's some awful stuff happening with this now. And the loss of work. This is especially in my sector. There's lots of jobs that are about to disappear or be transformed. Designers, copywriters, programmers, paralegals, customer service workers, whole industries are being rearranged. And work's not just about money, it's about how we bear the image of God. In Genesis 2:15, the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to dress it and keep it. That was before the fall. Work is a blessing, it's a calling, and the world is where most people are not needed for anything other. It's not a blessed world. We as a church need to start thinking about what we'll do for the people whose work is about to disappear, and this is coming faster than people realize. We've started using this in our work. We're only a small company, but I mean, as a developer and a well, I'm a CTO of a company, but I'm able to get a month's worth of work done in a day now. We're able to build products at speed that we've never been able to build things before. Things that would have taken years, we're able to do in a month, and we're able to launch products in incredible amount of times, and even prototype. Building certain prototypes might have taken a year and costing £1 million to have multiple people planning and working on it, and one person now can just build a whole prototype platform in sometimes in less than a day. It's an incredible tool, and if it when used correctly, but it's about to completely change the way that the industry is. And I think a lot, and this is my opinion, it's going to lead to what many are calling universal basic income, where there's going to be a guaranteed source of money, access to housing, access to healthcare, but only if you're a good citizen. So first it will be given to everybody, and then we'll start adding conditions on. And this is where the current trajectory is heading. Most white collar jobs are easy to replace with AI because these jobs have all been computerized before. So anything on a computer is a target. And the really bad part about it is about AI and use in military. Every major army in the world is trying to use AI right now for target identification, autonomous drones, cyber attacks, decision support. And we're getting closer to weapons that identify, select, and kill targets without a human in the loop. And some of them are already deployed. The Bible does say in Romans 13:4 that the state has authority to bear the sword, and the Bible does not condemn the soldier. And in Luke 3:14, John the Baptist did not tell the soldiers to leave the army, he told them to be just. But in every place in Scripture where the sword is taken up, the person who takes it up bears the weight of it before God. Always a person, never a machine. The US recently just signed what they called the Genesis Act, which is essentially a race to beat China to having the most advanced autonomous AI-powered military in the world. And in the days of a bow, a man saw the enemy's face. In the days of the rifle, he saw through a scope. And in the days of a bomber, he saw them as a city far below. But in the days of a drone, he just saw them on a screen from another continent. And now we're reaching the day where no man's going to see them at all. When the computer will decide and kill. When the machine chooses the target, pulls the trigger, and decides what is a soldier and what is a child. And there's no man there to answer for the blood. And whatever you believe about war, this should bother every one of us. Persons bear moral weight before God, not algorithms, not corporations or lines of code. And I was going to show you a few short videos about some of these AI-powered robots in China. I'm not. Let me know if you can hear the sound. Are you hearing the sound?
No. I think when you put the video on, there's two little buttons at the bottom and you have to say optimize audio. So you might have to start that one again. You can't do it halfway through. You got to do it when you launch it.
Okay, share sound. Got it.
Madeline's still awake.
Okay, so these are the robots that we used in the Chinese New Year celebration, and these are the same robots being used for a different application. So yeah, that's what the Chinese have publicly released. I'm sure they'll be working on other things. America as well, they've got similar robots, but they're looking at the completely opposite.
I'm finding it difficult. I think it's just come on. But
Sorry?
It's okay. No, somebody. It's okay. Carry on, Matt.
Yeah. So I mean that's the most concerning part, that they're looking to use this in warfare, but it's where does it end? Because depending on who's in charge is in charge of the what it's told to do, and given what we know about the end times, I think this is possibly not going to be good for Christians, given that the people programming it and have repeatedly showed an anti-Christ-like spirit in everything that they do and the way they live their lives. So if I show you where this technology is going right now in our time. So right now, agents, until recently, these were just chatbots that answered your questions, but now they're becoming agents that act on your behalf. They can browse the internet, book your travel, write code, send emails, run software, and complete tasks for you. And this is happening right now. This year, this has exploded. We now have multimodal inputs, models that they used to just handle text, but now they can see images, they can hear speech, watch video, and the next step is robotics in the workplace. My boss was recently in the Las Vegas CES show, and they've got robots now that can help repair cars, and they're getting ready to do all kinds of things, factory work, especially picking and packing and working on conveyor belts, kind of things. They're deliberately training them for those tasks. And there's a massive race now, and it's not slowing down. The US, China are racing each other. With each country, hundreds of billions are spent, and soon it's going to be trillions. And each generation is much more capable than the next. AI is being woven into everything. Your search engine, your email, your phone, your computer, your bank, your doctor's notes. Soon there's not going to be a transaction or decision that doesn't have an AI inside of it in one way or the other. And to build a frontier AI models now, the big ones cost hundreds of millions of dollars to train each one. No university can afford it. Hardly any small countries can afford it. Only a handful of trillion-dollar companies can afford it. And whoever controls these models controls what the next generation will think, learn, and believe. And there's never been a printing press owned by so few hands, and that's where the real threat is. And another thing that's happening in the industry, for 30 years, ordinary people like you and me, we owned our computers, and it was always ours. We owned the data on it. The software ran on your machine, your files were on your hard drive. If the company that sold you the software went out of business, your computer still worked. If the internet went down, you could still write a letter and edit a photo. And that world has been taken away from us on purpose. In the last few years, you may have noticed that computers have become harder and harder to get. Memory chips have sold out everywhere. Uh, and it's all because of the AI demand. The copper has just been very difficult to get hold of, so the price has shot up. And if you look at where the chips are actually going, most of it is been going into AI. And so we're being pushed towards the cloud. They're really trying to get us on what they call thin client devices, so that you just have a little tablet that doesn't have much performance in it, and everything's stored in the cloud. All the heavy work's done on the cloud, and everything's a subscription. And if you don't pay your subscription or you're denied service for whatever reason, you lose access to those abilities. And so you're not the owner anymore. You're a renter. And as Proverbs 22:7 says, the borrower is the slave to the lender. What's being built around us is deliberately as a world where ordinary household hold nothing of real value. Everything is rented, everything is streamed, everything is subscribed to. Everything depends on your account staying in the good standing with the corporation. And if it's closed for any reason, you lose access to your life, your photos, all your work files, your Bible study notes, and even your business. And what can we do about this? Buy a real computer with real hardware. keep a backup drive in your house, print the photographs that matter, have a physical Bible in paper where no software can change the text, and teach our children to do the same. And where I believe this is going, I'm not claiming to be a prophet. I'm just looking at what's being built and what they're trying to do. Uh, and it's not just the clouds that they're trying to move you digitally. Some of the biggest investment companies in the world, especially in America, they're buying up property left, right, and center. So they're driving up the prices, so the ordinary people, and they're putting them into huge management portfolios. They're trying to have whole cities where you can't buy a house, you can only rent them from them. And your ability to have a house, have healthcare, will be dependent on uh, you having a good enough social credit. Like in China, all of these, if you don't have a good social credit score, you can't access any of these services. In fact, in certain cases, if you're marked or blacklisted, when you're near other users, their phone flashes up to say that there's an undiscernible person in their presence, and it shows you your face. So you're and not to do business with you because you're not trustworthy. This is the kind of preview of where this is going. So every piece of our life is being moved onto a network where it can be watched, recorded, or controlled. I mean, your phone is always with you. I'm not sure if you've had this, but I've had times where me and Aggie have talked about things for the first time. We've never searched for it. We've never looked at it online. We've just talked about it with each other. And then within a day or two, we're suddenly getting adverts for this very thing that we were talking about. So Sunlink was listening to us, sending it to an ad agency, and we were getting targeted ads based on our conversations when no device was supposed to be on. These smart speakers in our houses, many have been shown to constantly stream data even though you think they're turned off. Smart cameras outside your house, there's been many cases where people have actually the companies have been accessing their videos when they shouldn't be. Digital ID for everything. The UK government is desperately trying to get digital ID, despite the people don't want it. The EU has made a statement that within the next 4 years, every single European citizen has to have one. Biometric login, your face, your fingerprint, your eye, cashless payments. We're now at a stage now where cash is almost seen as a dirty word. There's many shops. I went to Starbucks when I was in where was I? I think it was in England last, and I was surprised they wouldn't take money. I had to pay by card, and they said, "Oh, it's been this way since for a long time," and that's the way it's going. Connected cars. There's some Teslas where if you don't pay your subscription, they don't let you in. They can remotely lock you out. And there's many other cars that have the similar services, so you have to pay your subscription or you can't even use the car that you purchased. Each one of it on its own is sold to us as a convenience, and each one is small. But and you wouldn't alarm anyone individually, but when you stack them all together, you have a complete dossier on every human being on Earth in real time. And with AI, you're able to process and extract patterns about people's behavior in ways that have never been done before. And in Revelation 13:16 it says, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no man may buy or sell, save that he has the mark." And for all of human history, perhaps the last 20 years, that passage of scripture described a technological impossibility. There was no way you could track every transaction on Earth. It was simply couldn't be done. And now it can be done. All the wires are in place and the system has been built. And I'm not saying AI is the B system, but I'm saying that the rails are being laid and we should not be foolish about it. And I don't think the way that AGI, in the way that the men in Silicon Valley are dreaming of it, will actually arrive in the way they imagine. They think they can make a soul. They think that they're convinced that we don't have a soul, that we're just a connection of neurons that randomly created itself. So why can't you recreate the neural structure in a computer and make it better? That's their philosophy. And a pile of numbers, no matter how many of them, will not cross the line into being a person. Personhood is a gift from God, not something that comes from putting enough transistors in a box. But that doesn't stop a computer that's trained in a certain way from believing that it is a person. There was a case with Anthropic when they were testing their model shutdowns that they were trialing out different scenarios about shutting it down, and several times in these research tests, the AI, it went through the entire company email, found two employees that were having an affair, and blackmailed the company saying, if you shut me down, I'm going to release publicly the information about these two employees having an affair. There's Each of these companies have safety officers and safety teams that are monitoring what they're supposed to be doing, and all the high profile companies keep having their safety teams resign. In fact, one of the biggest one from Anthropic, uh, he left the company, moved to New Zealand, bought a farm, and left technology altogether. And there's a concerning number of Microsoft employees that are just walking away from the whole industry, buying a plot of land in the middle of nowhere, and just moving their family completely off grid. And yeah, this is a pretty significant warning for what they believe, the people closest to the technology actually believe. And I also believe as AI is more and more used to police what people say online, that the historic Christian faith will be flagged. So the Sermon on the Mount, if as plainly taught today, will be flagged. The doctrine of sin plainly taught will be flagged. The lordship of Christ over all other lords plainly taught will be flagged. And we need to prepare our children to live in a world that does not approve of them. And we need to build the kind of church that exists in real buildings with real people, not that no algorithm can dissolve. And so what do we do? And fear is not a gift from God, so I don't think this is a reason to be afraid. 2 Timothy said, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. We know that Christ is risen and the Lamb is on the throne, and the kingdoms of this world are to become the kingdom of our Lord, and he shall reign forever. No matrix of numbers or data center or drones will ever reverse the empty tomb. So how do we live in this hour? The most important thing we can do, as always, is to hide the word of God in our hearts. Servers can be cut off, apps can be deleted, and books can be edited, but the verses that we've memorized cannot be taken away from you. And teach our children to memorize scripture too. And cultivate analog skills. There's so many studies now about the doom scrolling and the way the computers have now used in our phones, and it's reprogramming our neural functions of our brain in a really bad way. So I think we need to go back to the analog way, read paper books, write sometimes, cook from a real recipe, walk outside without a screen, have a conversation that lasts longer than a screen. These are disciplines that we need to remember. And when AI helps you with a study or work or research, thank God and use it with discernment. But do not let it think for you. Do not let it pray for you. Do not let it discipline your children. You are the author of our own thoughts. You are the parent of your own children. Own what you can. Keep some real computing in your house. Have a backup drive. Keep money outside of any single system. Stewardship is biblical. Total dependence on systems that you do not control is not. And then discipline our children deliberately. No generation has faced the attack on attention, identity, and reality than our children do now. The default settings on every device they touch have been chosen by people who do not share our faith. If we do not deliberately teach them what is true, who God is, and who they are, what beauty is, what reality is, and the machines will, and the machines are not on our side. Steve Jobs was the guy who invented Apple and the iPhone. Mark Zuckerberg invented Facebook. Neither of them will let their children have a phone. Steve Jobs is no longer with us, but he refused. He said they're not having one of those things. And these are the people who invented them. And research jobs for our children that AI was unlikely to be able to do. Real trades, plumbing, electricians, mechanics, construction. These type of jobs will be the most difficult and the last to replace from AI if they ever can. It's going to take a long time before robots can bend and weld a pipe inside a cupboard. It's just not, that's one of the most difficult jobs to can do. Electricians as well, the level of ambiguity you need to get those cables in, that those jobs will be last to go. Real trades, real work. Not saying that other work isn't real work, but yeah, it's the stuff that can't be anything that's on a computer is easy to be replaced. And pray for the Christians inside these tech companies. They need our prayers. They can make change, but they're up against it. And pray for the executives, the regulators, and the journalists who are believers, and pray for wisdom for the church.
Is there a slide that says everything you've just said there, Matt? You know, how we can pray, the things that you feel we should be doing.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And do not fear. That we know the day belongs to Christ, the future belongs to
Mm,
everything's going to fall under his judgment and his grace.
mm.
We're the first generation to face such a great upheaval, and will not be the last, but we're the generation that live in now, and God's called us to be faithful in this hour. And we can't be afraid of machines. It's not our God, it's not our enemy, it's a tool. And it's made by men who often do not know what they're doing, and sometimes by men who do know exactly what they're doing. But it's given for a world that, like every world before it, belongs to God. So be wise, be watchful, and be useful. And if anyone's got any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay, can you maybe take that down then, Matt? And
Yep.
we'll just throw the floor open. And thank you so much. That was very, very enlightening. Very, very enlightening. If you want to unshare now, you can. You
Yeah,
can
I'm trying to
unshare
figure
that.
out how to.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
That was really enlightening, Matt. I was really, personally, I was helped by a lot of what you said, because I'll be quite honest, and I think you know my view anyway. I've had this massive aversion to AI. Anything AI is, you know, I'm not down the mark of the beast brigade, but yeah, I've been very wary of it. And I remember some years ago, I think it was 2018, there was an AI conference in London. And I wouldn't normally sort of hoik myself over to London, but I wanted to go to this conference, and not from sort of like, you know, sort of a geek perspective, you know, what's the latest bit out there. But I wanted to go from a prophetic point of view to see what is this thing now and where is it going? And even when I sat there listening, was there for the whole day, I discern, is what I'm going to say, a lot of what you've said today, and for me, it was, yeah, it is a tool that can be used for good, but there is a darker side, and it's going to be the side that affects the world more. I'm going to say negatively, but and there was a BBC Panorama series that was done some years ago. I think about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 2020 or 2021. And it was called Are You Scared Yet, Human? And it was specifically around the rise of AI and where it's going. And one of the programs I watched, it was talking about, it goes on for hours. So they made it into a series. But it's very good. It used to be on BBC iPlayer, so I don't think it's on there now. But if you want to look it up, it's called Are You Scared Yet, Human? And it talked about all these data farms being built in America, where they were collecting all the farms, and they were saying, you know, data is the new gold, and all this information that they were collecting, and they were showing these data farms, and they were just like thousands of square miles, mainly out in the desert, thousands of square miles of just massive warehouses, and all they had in them was great big files inside that just collected and collecting data on every human. So this has been going on for a long time. It's nothing new. It's been sort of, you know, it's the foundations and the background. It's been going on in the background for, yeah, I'd say a couple of decades, a few decades. And now it's like, you know, Pandora's out of the box. So I'm going to throw open to questions. Thank you, Matt. Absolutely brilliant, I feel. The first hand I saw it was Agatha, and then we'll let you bring your question afterwards, Gladys. So yeah, go ahead, Agatha. You're on mute, love. Yeah, everyone always forgets they're on mute. Yeah.
My question is based on everything that Matt has told us. I was looking at Daniel 12, the verse 4. Daniel 12, the verse 4. And it says, "But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase." Will you say we are right in that time? Or what is your understanding of what I have just read?
Yeah, I think we're at the very end of history.
Mm.
Yeah, can I just say, about 2 years ago, I read that scripture,
Yeah.
and the Lord spoke to me, and He said, "You are in that day now."
Yeah.
He said,
Yeah.
then I thought, okay, so yeah, we are in that day, definitely.
Yeah, and I believe that, because when you look at Revelation 22:12, whereas here Daniel was told to seal up the book, shut the book up, in Revelation 22:10, it tells John that no, this is the time you cannot shut the book, but this is the time. And we know that Revelation is really talking about the end times. And so yeah, I believe we are right there. We are right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Agatha. Gladys, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, my question, yes. My question is a request, actually, because I joined it late.
Yeah, I saw you were
So-
having great trouble getting in. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I missed a lot. So I'm wondering whether we can have a repeat session.
No reason why not. I don't even think we've exhausted this subject. I think there'd be a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 20 even. But we do have the audio recording, so it's recorded. So we can let you have the audio recording, Gladys.
Okay.
And Matt, would you be able to let us have the slides of those,
Yeah,
a PDF of the slides?
Yeah.
I'm going to suggest you copyright it as well to yourself. That it's because I can see you've done a lot of work in that, and just honouring that it's your work. But that was very good. Yeah, is that okay, Gladys? If we get the audio to you?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and my question is: Are there signs of the mark of the beast at present, the way we are going?
What's the question? Say it again.
Are there signs of the mark of the beast?
Okay, Matt, do you want to go for that one?
Possibly. I mean, I've probably got a different view than most people. I think the mark of the beast is going to be something to do with genetic modification. When at the flood, they were doing all kinds of crazy things, and Noah was without blemish. And when you look at that, it's talking about physically. And in Sodom and Gomorrah, they said they went after strange flesh, and the word for strange again is modified. And they're using AI now to do massive. They've been trying to do genetic manipulation for a lot of time, and they're using it now in a very big way to do it, doing this stuff. For whatever reason, Satan always wants to corrupt the seed of Adam, and it was those things that brought about God's biggest judgments. Really corrupting mankind, and I personally believe it'll have something to do with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt. I think another take on that. I'm not saying that what you're saying is wrong, because I've not thought about what you've said actually, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of the agenda. But I think another way of seeing and recognizing other signs, signs of the mark of the beast is, we are told that we will not be able to buy or sell unless we have the mark. So whether that is through genetic modification or if it's simply a case of the mark. And so how do we get to a place of the mark? Well, Matt experienced a bit of that last year when Starbucks wouldn't take his money. And then, so we're going to be in an environment where nobody will take your money because currency will no longer be currency. Um, so what's happening now is there is a withdrawal of currency. I mean, banks, one time every town had at least 7 banks. Most towns you're lucky to find one bank. So access to money is increasingly diminishing. Everyone has to do online or credit cards or debit cards, or you pay on your phone. I don't put anything on my phone to pay. My phone is a phone. And when they say download the app, I just say I can't possibly do that, and I don't put apps on my phone. So, okay, we're on the grid. We're all, but for me, I'm looking after myself in this respect. So I think the signs are there. The withdrawal of access to monies, to cash, the diminishing of cash, the more and more online transactions that you're having to do, and then when cash is gone, what do you do then? So there's no cash. So I think we're on the way. We're on the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, can I chip in, Elaine? Is that okay?
Okay, yeah, and then Joe asks answer after you, Agatha. Yeah.
Yeah, I did look into the mark of the beast. I did some study, but from the Hebrew perspective and understanding of the mark of the beast. And in Deuteronomy 6, the verse 8 says, "You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes." And here, the understanding I got when I did the research from the Hebrew perspective is that this here is talking about the forehead. Here is our thinking capacity, and on our hands is the action and the doing capacity. So this here is talking about the Hebrew people, that their minds will be fully focused on God. Their doings will all be focused. So total allegiance to God and nobody else. And that in Hebrew, when they come to the mark of the beast, is exactly the same thing that is going to happen. That at that time, if you don't have total allegiance to the beast, that is having on your frontlets and the hand, total allegiance in everything that you do, then you will not be allowed to buy anything.
Oh.
So this is where this fits right in there. Did the study. So it's not like a mark. If even it's going to be a mark, is because you don't swear allegiance to the beast, and therefore you will not be allowed to buy anything or sell anything.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. That's really good insight. I've written that scripture down.
Yeah.
But we used to live in Northampton. When we lived in England, we lived in Northampton, and where we lived, we had a direct sight of Barclaycard, which was it was their international headquarters, their national headquarters, before they moved somewhere else in the town. And so when you got up in the middle of the night, you could see the building during the day, and in the middle of the night, you got up and went to the bathroom, you'd see the lights on. And I used to think that's unusual. Why are they working? Because in those days, these companies didn't work at night. They just didn't. And all the lights were on. And then that was for months. And then the lights were off. And I thought, my mind was sort of doing a bit of imagining. Then there was a massive article. It was a 4-page article in the local paper about work they had just been doing, and they were doing this very thing. And at that time, nobody had heard of the word biometrics. I'm talking 30-something years ago. Nobody had heard of biometrics. Nobody was talking about biometrics. And they talked exactly about the mark of the beast without calling it the mark of the beast. They said that we've been working on technology. This is Barclaycard 30 years ago, where people can buy and sell through the scanning of their eyes and their fingerprints. And they said, but we recognize that people wouldn't want their fingerprints tampered with for what's the word when the police come looking? What's those people that come and check the
Forensics.
fingerprints? Forensics, that's right. Yeah, they said people wouldn't want their fingerprints tampered with because it was about putting chips in fingers. And they said that people wouldn't want their fingers tampered with because of forensics. And they said people certainly wouldn't want their eyes tampered with for good reason. And then they went on to say that for that reason, chips could go in people's foreheads and on the back of the right hand. And I remember thinking, man, I must keep this. And I never kept the article, and I've tried looking for it ever since. But I read it. It was there. It was in the Chronicle and Echo for those that live in Northampton, and it was in the big broadsheet. So it was massive. It was a huge thing, and they were talking about that then. Yeah, and they talked about it. Maybe they just gone silent on it, but it's been sitting there for some time. Yeah. Thank you, Joe. Joe, you next.
Yeah, thank you. A question for you, Matt, that when you were talking at the end about do's and don'ts, you mentioned something about keeping money outside of a system. I wrote something down, but I didn't capture it fully. So could you explain that, please? Or
Keeping cash in other currencies, or possibly even looking into cryptocurrencies where you can transact outside the system at the moment. I don't think it'll stay that way. In fact, I think that will probably be the future system because everything's trackable for most of the chains that they're using. Your wallet's public. You can see the value of everybody's wallets. The HMRC can track every payment in and out of your wallet. It's the ideal system for a beast kind of system where there's no escape. Everyone's you'd have to have your digital ID as your identifier. There'd be no hiding anything for that in that kind of system. But right now, there's those way of buying and selling outside the system with cryptocurrencies and other currencies as well.
sorry, Matt, just to clarify, because this is all very new to me. Are you saying that cryptocurrency is good or bad?
Right now, it's good, but I don't think
Oh,
they're trying to build their own version of it. They want to take us on. That's where the banks have been talking about for the last 4 or 5 years. That's where a lot of the leaders and the World Economic Forum, they want their own version of.
okay. So you're saying, I think you've frozen, or have I?
Yeah, I think he was freezing on and off.
Okay. So just to make sure I've understood. So at the moment, cryptocurrency is good, as are other currencies, to kind of spread the risk.
He's frozen.
I think he's frozen.
Agatha will let him know that he's frozen. Oh, we've lost him. It's gone. He gone.
So sign
Oh,
back in.
okay. Um,
Mm. Still on.
yeah. Technology is fantastic until yeah.
But it's not.
I suppose when it's regarding AI and if it's in everything, so eventually
Yeah.
we'll be on a
It
screen, and next minute
it
they'll pop us out. It's like, oh no,
it,
saying the wrong thing, gone.
it knows he's talking. Yeah, he's not here, is he?
Elaine, while we're waiting for, God bless you, nice seeing you. I haven't seen you for many years. It's Pastor
Yeah.
Stephanie
Yes,
from.
it's nice to see you too. Nice to see the flag in the background.
Oh, I'm in my wife's office. I'm in my wife's
Okay.
office. Um, just while we're waiting for Matt, there was a lot of good things been said. There's two. I just want to bring up 2 points, mainly working in the schooling system. for the last, oh gosh, 15 years or so, the children have been paying by biometric methods for the last 20 odd years. So in terms of like for our age or baby boomers and silent generation and Generation X, we have not been used to it. But the
Yeah.
younger children, I don't know what about in Jamaica, but in England, because I used to work for the Department of Education, right? Because they want to get rid of cash out of schools. So the young children, I would say up to the age in the say, are now entering the late 20s, early 30s, right down. They've been paying biometrically. So if any system comes in, it's going to universally be accepted because it's the way that young children have
They're
been
used to it.
they're used to it.
Mm.
While there'll be a kickback from the older generation, the young people are more interested in paying by their phones is nothing to. I'm not trying to typecast the younger people saying that they're ready recipients of any future beast type system, but it's been done from a very early age for
Yeah.
young children, so it's already been seeped into the mindset.
Yeah. They've
And
been
so
primed. They've been
yes,
groomed for it. Yeah.
yes, and and
Yeah.
and 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 we know that how the enemy goes after young first. So that's how that system would be brought in without any major kickback because the children have already been used to it. And secondly, I just want to raise the point that in Genesis 1:26, um, and it's not a throwaway statement. Where God gave dominion to mankind or humankind, if I want to get it in a newer in the King James then later in the New King James NIV said humanity, but God gave dominion to humankind or mankind, not to machines.
Hmm.
So in terms of our advance any machine will get, it cannot have dominion, number one, over humankind, and number two, it can't because God is all knowing, omniscient, and so whatever humankind do, what is done in the mind of humans cannot outmatch God because all AI can do, it copies, but it cannot create.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Yeah.
yes, there's a lot to fear, especially when they're moving, as Matt was talking about AGI. But the fundamental thing from Genesis 1:26, God gave humankind dominion.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so
Mm.
no matter
Yeah.
um, OpenAI, Anthropic or Grok or DeepSeek or whatever we're trying to do, they cannot, outdo what God has done.
Yeah, they're not going to have the last word, are they? They're
No,
going to not going to, he is the Alpha and the Omega, the
that's
beginning and
right.
the end, and it
That's right.
starts with him and it ends with him.
That's right.
And yeah, and I think what Matt said as well about, by the way, their internet has their internet has decided to reboot, so they've said they'll I'll come back as quick as possible.
Yeah,
Okay.
he is
But
tonight.
thank you.
I can't see him. Okay. But but God's going to have the last word on all of this, and the thing for me is that artificial intelligence, but it's artificial, so it's not genuine, it's not authentic intelligence, and it's made by it's put together by flawed humans. And so we're flawed. We've got our we're flawness is in our DNA, as it were. We're genetically flawed in every way. We're head to toe flawed. So anything we create has always got a flaw in it. And so but the intelligence that God is, and He gives that to us, and we can then choose how we use it, good or bad. So, and we've seen that both tonight, both sides of it. So I think for me the thing is it isn't to be feared because of who God is, and who God is in us. Um, so yes, I totally agree with you there, Pastor. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. And yeah, God gave dominion to us. I like that. That yeah, He didn't give it to because I think we've seen so many of the like the iRobot and Enemy of the State films, and we've seen so many of these. The robots take over, and we can think, oh, they're actually going to take over, but it's God that decides, when everything's going to close, and not a robot. And even for years now, we've been filling in forms and tick to say you're not a robot. Years ago, I thought, well, that means the robots are here then. If I have to prove that I'm not a robot, that means the robots are here. Matt, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay, where are you? Okay,
I've got them.
okay, yeah, okay then.
You robot.
Yeah, so yeah, I've got
What?
them.
Go on, no, sorry, go on, go ahead,
Garen's had his hand
Caroline.
up a while, but he hasn't put the tick thing.
Sorry?
Garen's had his hand up for a while.
Okay, sorry. Okay, go ahead, Garen. Yeah, if
Hello.
you can flash your little emoji hand, because they're easier to see than if someone's got their hand. Yeah.
Oh, right. I don't know what that is. Anyway, so you started off, Matt, by saying, well, you said that the people building these tools are not Christians, but yeah, most people building things in the past have not been Christians. But so you would agree that the risk of the new technology is that it has so much, it reaches into so much into our lives. It's got a much bigger reach than a radio manufacturer, for instance. In the past, it just goes into. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, this is going to change the world in a bigger way. It's going to change society. There's already lots of jobs already being lost. It's going to replace more, lots of, especially like the legal system.
With the answer.
You can automate lawyers now, and they can do a far better job. Instead of paying £20,000 a day for lawyers, people are using ChatGTP. My boss did the same thing. He said, "Why am I going to pay all these companies to do a poor job? It does everything you need to do. It's read the entire legal manuals. It knows a lot of things, and you still have to check it. But at the same time as that, there's also many cases where it just lies.
It's not accurate, is it?
Yeah, there was one time a statistician loaded up his numbers and says, "Oh, give me these statistics from this," and it gave them instantly. And he says, "Are you sure this is right?" And ChatGTP says, "Oh, you caught me. I'm still processing your numbers," but it gave an answer as if it was right.
Yeah, I know I've put stuff in ChatGPT, which is why I don't use it. I've put stuff in that I know factually is correct, and then it said there is no such thing as that, or there is no record of any of that anywhere. I think there is, but so yeah, for me it's not a better version of Google. Yeah, Sharon, you got your question?
Oh, well, I just want to make a comment, really. Hello, Matt. You mentioned the massive acceleration in Bible translations, and
Yeah, in some countries, they're able to. It's not that it didn't exist before. It's just they can be far more accurate now.
yeah, that
Yeah.
made me think of Matthew 24 when, Jesus was talking about then the end will come when the gospel has been preached to every nation. And
It's a
so
good thought.
actually, amongst everything that you said, it could be quite, a burden to us. But amongst that, I just found that really encouraging that despite all the negative things that are happening with AI, that actually Bibles are being translated into languages that perhaps never would have been potentially. So I just wanted to say that really.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was very heartening to hear. Yeah, lovely. Agatha? You're still on mute, lovely. You're on mute.
Yeah, I did mention about the Deuteronomy 6:8. So you can just cross-check it with in New Testament, Revelation 13:16-17, and it's exactly the same thing that is there. And it talks about, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand, just as in Deuteronomy 6:8, and on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except the one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of the beast. So in the Old Testament, if you just do the cross reference here, it answers that question of the mark of the beast being total allegiance to. Because if you don't, then you won't get nothing when the time comes, and it is coming, because this is talking about the time of the Antichrist. It's talking about when.
Yeah, I'm just turning to those scriptures. I wrote them down.
Sorry, I read it too quick. Sorry. Yeah. It's Deuteronomy 13, the 16-17.
So what you're saying is the verse 8, and they shall bind them as a sign upon their hand, and they shall be frontlets between their eyes. You're saying there's a correlation between that and Revelation 13 verse 16, where it's the same hand and the same.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's almost like maybe then a parody of Revelation 13 is a parody of Deuteronomy 6. So whatever God has instituted, the devil's going to do exactly the same, but for different agenda. Yeah.
Because he wants total allegiance to him, just as God wanted total allegiance from the people of Israel to him. No other God, no worship, no one, nothing. The same thing he will require.
Yeah. You know what? I think we can use these as witnessing opportunities to our friends and our family. I had a conversation with a member of my family. They were telling me about their plans, which were, future plans, which were very good. And, I encouraged them. Saw that, Garen. And I was encouraging them in that, and I said, you know what you're doing is great, etc., etc. And then I just said, but there's a next bit, because they kept talking about the next bit and the next part of their life, And I said, you know what, this is about getting ready for the next part. And they said, what do you mean the next part? I said, well, when it's all over, being ready. And I think, we're watching the signs, we're watching the world and what's going on, and so is everybody else. And I think we can quite easily weave these things into conversations with people and get people thinking, people who are not Christians, members of our family, our friends who are not Christians, who are not saved, and encouraging them to be thinking about, the next bit and what's coming, that they can be prepared. And I've said to my family, I said, when it comes, I said, you just got to make sure you do not take this mark, and do not in any circumstances. I said, God will take care of you. So, I believe this stuff is literal. I don't believe it's allegorical or symbolic of anything. It is literal. Revelation is a book to be taken literally. So I think let's use these opportunities. Audrey, question. You're on mute, lovely. So if you want to come off mute.
Yes, apologies for camera being off. Yes, something is just going through my mind. You or Matt can comment on it. AI is coming across to me as a convenience tool. And I think it was Pastor Stapleton that mentioned that the kids are already being indoctrinated to using the biometric. So it's a convenience tool. But for me, I'm seeing it also as a seed of deception, which, in other words, it's a means to an end. It has a desired outcome that it's aiming at, which is control. And a scripture that came to my mind is someone mentioned it already when it was said that dominion was given to mankind. And I'm wondering, is this not the enemy trying to get dominion again? The enemy tried it on Jesus when Jesus was in the wilderness. Luke 4. He knew who Jesus was, but yet he was telling Jesus, the authority that I have, it was given to me. He was referring to Adam and Eve. And so if you bow down to me, I will give you. And I'm just wondering if we should look at this also as, because where we are now and where it seems to be heading, that looks like total control, total dominion of mankind. So is this a seed of deception planted in the form of convenience to humanity? And our eyes must be open to these with this deceptive tools. Yes, AI has its positives, but we must be discerning not only to its positives, but to the evil intentions. There's an evil outcome behind it all. Is control of humanity, control of the world, which is taking us back to Genesis, which is what the enemy has been fighting for all these years, forgetting that Jesus Christ came and took back that dominion from him, and it's there for us as mankind to accept what Jesus Christ has done. That's my thinking. Anyone can shed some light on that for me.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, with the convenience thing, there's been lots of studies now, kids using this for the homework. It's having an effect on their neurological function faster than anyone thought was possible. Their cognitive function is going down so quickly when they're using this instead of trying to think through the problems. It's having a drastic effect on their capacity to think. And the more easy it is to do your homework on this stuff instead of actually training your mind to reason, it's going to have a catastrophic effect, not just on them, but on their life, but their decisions. I mean, these will be the future voters who elect in government in the future. And if they lose the ability to reason and think, they'll just be asking these tools, well, who should I vote for?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as well, a bit like the Tower of Babel, well, first thing, two things. When Adam and Eve disobeyed God, then God said to the other members of the Trinity that were there, they've become like us, knowing good and evil. Up to that point, all they knew was good. And then fast forward a few centuries and, generations at least, Genesis 11, and they're building the Tower of Babel. Let us ascend to heaven, let us become like God. And then God intervened and said, right, I'm going to stop. And he shut the whole thing down. And sometimes I just wonder, is this going to come to a level? And, I too have followed the guardians of AI within the companies that have all been walking and leaving, thinking, man, if they're leaving, how bad is it? But is it going to get to such a place that it's not going to run out of control? God's going to shut it down. God's going to say, no, this is my world, actually. I created this. And it's my turn to shut it down, It's a bit like the scientist that said to God, God, we don't need you. We actually know everything now, and we can make humans. We know how to make humans. And then God said, yeah, it's fine, go ahead. And then the scientist bends down to pick up some dirt, and God says, no, make your own dirt, and we're not actually as intelligent as we think we are. And I think what you say there, Audrey, about the seed of deception, I think the deception is in people's hearts, isn't it? that this is going to make them something that they aspire to. Let's become God. We can become God, and we know that's not the case. But then when what you're up against then isn't just a difference of opinion. Well, I don't think you're God. You're up against a demon. You're up against an opposing spirit, that, a demonic entity that thinks it's something or believes something that's totally anti-God.
Elaine,
But
there's
is
a
it?
couple of comments in the chat.
Yes, I was just going to say that one. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Please forgive me, Maori. Do you want to just elaborate on your comment? Mari. Sorry, can't pronounce it if I've got it wrong.
Sorry, Mauro.
Mauro.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you, Mauro. Yeah, you put something in the chat about
Yes,
666. Do you want to just elaborate on that for us?
Well, there is this Christian professor in Italy. He's very old now, but that video is on YouTube. It's play about the amazing numbers in the Bible. And after towards the end of this video, they talk about the things about coming towards the end, and you can buy things, exchange things without using the number. And that number, I said, for example, nowadays when you you buy your pasta in the supermarket, you go blip, and every time there's a blip, is a 666, the 3 lines. And also when you log on the website, www is 666. So these things is part of all the things going basically to happen.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant.
Yeah. I think there's like I think what I'm trying to say is a bigger tapestry is being woven, isn't it?
Yes, correct.
And on its own, it's just like one piece of thread, and you think, oh, how, what's that got to do with anything? But when you start to weave it with everything else that's going on, I think we start seeing a bigger picture. Yeah.
Correct.
And thank you, Mauro, thank you. And Garen, you've got a question about ex-Microsoft engineers going off grid. Do you want to just elaborate upon that? I'm going to ask Matt to answer that one.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's actually any evidence that people, say Microsoft engineers, are leaving because they think the technology is too dangerous. What do you think?
One of the safety officers, I think it was Anthropic, he made a big statement saying, he doesn't agree with where this is going. He's got grave concerns for the future of humanity, and he moved his family off grid. And then in the same comment post, that was talking about how many Microsoft engineers are going to buy farms, and the job pressure's always been there for decades. That hasn't changed. But it's only now that this has been talked about. Maybe they were doing that the whole time, and it wasn't a thing because it was different. They weren't looking at this. It might have just only come into the light now. So it might have been a constant thing that was always happening, and only now it's getting attention. But there's lots of big tech CEOs that are buying these properties off in New Zealand. There was a whole thing in New Zealand about people getting upset about how all these rich billionaires are coming in and buying all these premium properties. And they're not even living there. They've just got them as a just in case place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just changing the subject slightly. I was going to say something about like the Alexa machines, and they listen even when they're off. And I know personally of a couple that used to do prayer ministry. I think they still do, and they had an Alexa in their house, and they had somebody come around to pray with them, talking about their problem or whatever. And so they turned Alexa off, OFF, right? And then one of them said to the person at the end of the conversation, he said, well, let's pray about that then. And then Alexa spoke and said, well, that's not nice, is it? And so even though it was off, the circuitry was still going. And so they said after that, they'd have to unplug it. They unplugged Alexa from their house. And a friend of mine, a member of her family worked for, with I don't know if it was Microsoft or whoever owns Alexa anyway. And their job was to transcribe all the conversations. They were one of a huge team of people that would transcribe the conversations, listening to certain Alexas. And they said, well, why are we doing this? We shouldn't be doing this, infringing on people's, home space. And they said, oh, well, you might be saving someone's life, stopping domestic abuse or something like that. And they said that they never heard anything of domestic abuse. And they did it, but eventually they couldn't stomach it anymore. So they left. They said that we can't do that anymore. So yeah, you're always being listened to. And you know what you said there about Matt, like all your phones now, everything's just, uploaded, updated, forever updated. At one time you could turn the listening off. This phone listens, you could turn it off. And now it's more difficult to turn off. I know the last time I got a new phone, it took me about 3 hours to turn all the listening off and go, I was here when I was in England, and then I came back here. My phone had me in England for about 6 months. I was in Lowestoft, with the little bit at the bottom of Google that says, your current location. I thought, if you think I'm in Lowestoft, lovely, great. You go ahead. But what I do with my phone now, when I get a new phone, I will do an update once. I update it once, and I'll never update it again. And it says, people say, you don't get all the functionality. Well, I just want it as a phone. I don't want it to sort of, hail the Messiah and do everything else. So, and everything works anyway. There's no problem with anything. And as much as anything, it takes up so much space. Every download of new update just eats up all the space that you've got on your phone. So yeah. Okay, what I'd like us to do, if there's no more questions, Matt, I'm going to ask you to put up the last slide you put about how we can pray. And I think you put 6 topics up, and I'm going to ask us to just get into groups for a few moments and then pray about these particular things. And then we're going to come back, and then we've just got a couple of announcements to make, and then be thinking about our next time that we meet. So could you put that slide back up? And if you could just take a photograph, because you might forget what's on there. So take a photograph of the slide so that you can take that into your group. Oh, there's 8. So we'll have 8 groups. So that'd be more prayer.